that I have been tasked to work with is working with Cuckoo Sandbox. And so that was one of the biggest advantages and one of the things that I really valued using at Availity when I first started there, is being able to test things and sandbox URLs and files inside of Cuckoo Sandbox. And I started using it so much that I was pushing the infrastructure that we had at Availity kind of to the limit. And so I would be running 8 or 9 analysis inside of Cuckoo at one time, all on one virtual machine, and it would spool up, it would do its analysis, it would shut down, it would start the next one, and it was just a slow process because of how much I was trying to use it. And I was trying to go through 20 or 30 phishing emails and sandbox all the URLs and most of the phishing emails, and it was just taking a long time. So I started working on the back end with Cuckoo and started figuring out exactly how to optimize it and set it up. And so I learned a bunch of really cool stuff when I was working with Cuckoo, and so I wanted to share some of those things with the group. And at any skill level, I will have something that's available for you to be able to check a URL and find out, hey, is this a bad thing, or is this an okay place to go, or something like that. So Cuckoo Sandbox does a couple different things. You can scan URLs. You can go to websites virtually inside of a computer that I won't say can't be affected, but is less likely to be long-term affected by malicious software or malicious code. You can analyze a virus or a piece of malware inside of a remote machine that you don't care about.
Can you define a sandbox?
So a sandbox is a virtual environment that is closed off, that can't be or is less likely to be exploited. So if you run something right on your computer, there's a lot of information that's already on the computer that the malicious software can get to. Or if you even run up a virtual machine, sometimes it can get out of the virtual machine and attack the rest of the system. So a sandbox is a quote-unquote safer place to do analysis, to do testing, to run code like that, or explore URLs without getting exploited. So Cuckoo is also really great for investigating different kinds of malware, and then obviously for sandboxing just whatever you need to. So target users here, the kind of people that might build their own Cuckoo server and run their own instance, and especially to keep it running, would be more on the lines of like cybersecurity professionals, people with servers to be able to run this kind of information and have a constant dedicated server running, virtualized or physical. And then somebody that might have a frequent need, that might be sandboxing things once a day, twice a day, something like that. People that would not sandbox or build their own Cuckoo instance, that might use one that's available free out on the internet, would be the kind of people that would be amateur users at home, non-professional users at home, people that would be able to share non-sensitive data out on the internet. Because what most of the free online sandboxes, the downside to most of them is that anybody else that has access to the platform is going to be able to see what you sent to the sandbox. So if you have private company data, usually you don't want it to be sent to a free online sandbox because everybody else is going to be able to see what you sent to that sandbox. And then people that have an occasional need that, hey, I got an email with a weird link in it or a weird PDF in it, and I need to check that out, so I'm going to check that out. That kind of thing. So Sandbox, or Cuckoo, is actually a Python code. So the way that we might run this is you have out here in red, you have your physical machine as the most outside layer here. And so your physical machine is running everything that's going on here, obviously. And inside of that, you might run a virtual machine inside of VMware or VirtualBox or ESXi or something like that. And then the Cuckoo program is running inside of that server, so that might be like an Ubuntu server. And then the Cuckoo program is running in Python on that server, and then it's going to have access to be able to run analysis in several different virtual machines. So you might have a Windows 7 machine, a Windows 8 machine, a Windows 10 machine, all available for Cuckoo, and then when you get in to run an analysis, you'll just choose which machine you want to work on, and then hit the submit button, and it'll go through and do that. Another way that you could run this is you could run, without the virtual machine, you could run the Cuckoo Python code directly on your physical machine, and then have different virtual machines inside of there. And then another interesting way that you might be able to run this is inside of AWS. So a lot of the EC2 instances that you can roll up on AWS don't have the virtualization technology turned on. So instead of running the Cuckoo inside of the virtual machine and then having virtual machines run inside of that, you would have a hook into your AWS instance, and Cuckoo would be able to spool up new virtual machines. And this project is a project that has been created by Checkpoint. And so they have a GitHub repository and a blog about their setup that you can scale and spool up multiple Cuckoo instances, and it'll actually just create more and more instances as you request more and more analysis to be run at the same time. So it's really neat how it can just spool up new instances, and you already have an AMI created, and then it takes that AMI, it creates a new virtual machine, and then runs the snapshot side of that, and you've got a new machine to run analysis on. And so this is going to be kind of the next level that I'm going to get to at my company, so that if I hit the submit button, it spools up a new instance, and now if I hit the submit button 20 times, it spools up 20 new instances, which I've been up to 10 analysis that I've all wanted to run in parallel, and so it'll scale to be able to do all that. So as far as setup goes on Cuckoo, it is a little bit complicated. It's difficult because Cuckoo has, inside of the Python libraries, it has a lot of requirements on the back end. So it requires PCAP capture, it requires volatility to be able to capture the memory, it requires several different libraries, and so there's a lot of prerequisites and packages that have to be built in order to even set up the machine to get ready to run Python, get ready to run Cuckoo. The other difficulty is that Cuckoo actually runs on Python 2.7, and a lot of the things that it asks you to install to be able to set it up runs on Cuckoo like 3.8. And so you have to create virtual environment to be able to separate Cuckoo 2.7 or Python 2.7, which Cuckoo wants, and Python 3, which some of the other dependencies want. So that was one other thing that I learned, how to run virtual, and in order to set up virtualization inside of Python to be able to make it work. It also requires a little bit of power. So if you are running it in the first configuration that I mentioned, you've got you're virtualizing a server that is running things like Nginx, and it's running Guacamole, and it's running some other services on there at the server level, and then it's virtualizing something else, and it's running virtual machines under that. So it requires quite a bit of power on your server. So when I set up my AWS version of Cuckoo, a T2 micro or a T2 small was just not strong enough. I had to build a bigger and better server to be able to handle some of the load on that. Also, virtualization within virtualization can be pretty tricky, and so there are some tricks with like VT-X pass-through that you have to set up in order to be able to virtualize a machine inside of a virtual environment. So if you're running something like ESXi or VirtualBox and you're trying to virtualize it inside of that, you've got to make sure that you understand how you're setting that up and how you're working that. One of the other things that I found was really difficult to do via command line, and I like command line normally, is how do you set up a guest machine and figure out all the settings that you want inside of Windows through a virtual Ubuntu environment through command line. And so that's when I learned that X11 forwarding makes it really easy to be able to log into the server and then pull up VirtualBox and then be able to set up the guest machines and configure them and get them exactly how you want, and then save your snapshot and close it out. And then that's X11 forwarding was really important, really key to be able to set up the guest machines. And I'll talk a little bit more about how guest machines are best configured in order to get the best results out of your Cuckoo server. And then VTX forwarding is how you would set up VirtualBox to be able to allow the guest machines direct access to the processor in order to be able to run a 64-bit machine inside of a 64-bit machine. And so that's one of the only ways to get that to work, but it also slows things down tremendously and requires quite a bit of power to work. So once you get your Cuckoo instance set up, or if you find one of the ones that I'll talk about for free online, this is what you get. So it has a simplified user interface. If you come up here, you can click Submit a File for Analysis. Submit a File for Analysis just gives you a window. You pick your file, you hit Submit. You hit Submit on the next page, and it will run it inside of the sandbox. If you want to do a URL, you type in the URL on the right. It goes to that website. It simulates some user movement, and it moves the cursor around, and sometimes it'll click on some of the links on the website, and then it'll close down. It'll analyze all the data that it collected inside of the sandbox, and then it'll give you a nice little interface to summarize what the sandbox found. So this is the web interface. This is a really easy way to submit things. You can also submit things via API. So you can set up a program that says that every time an email gets submitted as malicious, we're going to, send all the links to the API, and it's going to run automatically on the background. Or you can submit things via command line on the server that's running Cuckoo. All right, so for analysis has a bunch of really cool things in here. And so you get a full memory dump. You get a full packet capture on the full network, all the network in and out that's going on. You get, you can fully control what goes on inside of the sandbox with Guacamole, if you get that set up properly. And then you have Snort and Saricata are checking all the packets that come in and out of the machine. And Yara actually is checking everything against a set of community Yara rules. And so all of this, you get this summary right here that gives you this estimated 1 to 10 rating on how malicious it is. And then you can scroll through and it'll tell you, hey, blue, green, yellow, red, really dark red, how bad is everything that happens inside of that sandbox. And why did it give it a rating of, this is 5.4 out of 10, why is that rating that bad? So it's pretty it's pretty friendly to use once you get it all set up, or if you go to one of the free ones that I'm going to say is available out there on the internet. So the big features of Cuckoo are that it's open source, it's built on Python libraries. You can use it locally on your computer, you can use it remotely on a server on the network, or you can use it out on the cloud. Cuckoo scales. You can have multiple virtual machines inside of each Cuckoo instance, and you can even set it up at an advanced level of having several Cuckoo servers that all report up to one result server. And so it'll actually load balance between all your different Cuckoo servers, And so if each Cuckoo server has 4 virtual machines on it, it'll say, okay, well this one's already doing 4, so we'll try this one, we'll try this one, and it really can scale out like that very well. And then it's available for Windows, Mac OS X, and for Linux, and it really scales well as far as however much you need, you can have it more or less be able to develop towards Cuckoo. Cuckoo's also very well documented. They've got this kind of book style format that gives a lot of detail, a lot of information. Some of it says run this, run this, run this, and it'll give you really detailed step-by-step instructions. Some of it says, hey, you're going to need to install this, so go to that website and follow their directions, which kind of makes sense for them because they don't want to keep the documentation as up-to-date as something like man-in-the-middle proxy is one of the dependencies that you can install to improve your analysis. And so they don't want to, keep their documentation as up-to-date as theirs, so they kind of link you out and tell you to go look at their documentation, install theirs. It's ordered in chapters, so it starts with how to install the host machine, how to install all the information you need on the guest, how to connect the two together, step-by-step instructions, and then they have their own forms that's really helpful to go look at if something isn't working. Configuration, once you get Cuckoo installed on the machine, everything is configured with a series of conf files. So you can program all your different machines and how they run inside of Cuckoo, which machines we can go to. You can tweak all the settings inside the different conf files. And so a couple important ones inside of the Cuckoo working directory, which is inside of home, .cuckoo, and all the conf files are inside of there. So some of the big important ones you need to pay attention to are machinery.conf, auxiliary.conf, where you can turn on and off all the extra features, cuckoo.conf, and virtualbox.conf if you're using VirtualBox as your virtualization software. One of the other things that was a little bit difficult to understand the difference in when you start going through all the conf is what things are for the host and what things are for the guest. So you have to kind of configure both. So the host is what's running Cuckoo inside of Python. It analyzes all the results. It does all the parsing of the PCAP, which is the packet capture, the network packet capture. It does the parsing of all of the memory dump that has all the information in the memory. It is displaying the results, and it is serving up the results, and it's what's serving the web page and showing up the web page. The guest it runs at a lower level, and it's actually running the malicious software. It resets back to a snapshot after every run, and it's what's presenting the user interface when you use Guacamole. And so usually your guest machine will be a Windows machine, and the way that I've always set up Cuckoo is the host machine will be a Linux machine. In fact, the Cuckoo documentation, even though I think it's really good, the Cuckoo documentation doesn't have step-by-step directions on how to set up the Windows side of Cuckoo. It says documentation coverage. For the guest setup, they are recommending Windows 7 or Windows 10 for your guest because that's what's most vulnerable and what most malware is targeted towards. You have to disable the Windows firewall in order to get everything to work right. You have to install Python on the guest machine, and Python you have to install the dependency Python Pello. So there's a few. There's actually you can download it from Cuckoo, but there's a Python module that you should have running on your snapshot in order to send all the results back to the Cuckoo server. You should also install, if you're using VirtualBox to do your virtualization, you should also install the VirtualBox guest extensions, because that makes the Guacamole experience, the remote desktop type experience, much, much better and much easier to use. You may also want to install on your guest machine programs to open the malware and be able to access the malware, because if it doesn't run on the machine or it doesn't have a program to run the malware on the machine, it's just not going to work. So something like Adobe PDF Reader, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Office, something like that. And then you want to make sure that you take a snapshot before you close down the machine and power down the guest machine. You take a snapshot, and that is basically where the machine is going to start every time you submit an analysis. So usually I'll have it all booted up, ready to go, and that's where my snapshot will sit, so that as soon as I hit submit, it pulls up the snapshot's already sitting inside of the booted Windows ready to go, and it'll run that analysis. As far as where to get Windows 7 or Windows 10, so if you have an old copy of Windows 7 lying around or an old Windows 7 installation disk, that's one way that you can do it. Microsoft also offers a Windows 10 virtual machine already configured for VirtualBox, and it's Windows 10, it's got Internet Explorer and Edge installed on it for Microsoft Edge developers. And so you can just go download that. It's good for 90 days, and they recommend if you take a snapshot, it'll always be good from the 90 days from when you took the snapshot. So it's available to download directly from Microsoft, so that's a great way to be able to get a Windows 10 virtual machine. I swear 2 or 3 months ago I got a Windows 7 virtual machine from the same place, but now it's gone. So I think when they moved Edge over to being a Chrome skin, they got rid of all their extra virtual machines, and now it's just one Windows 10 machine. But I have a copy of it around, so. One of the other things that was really important to learn about inside when I was working with Cuckoo is learning how to use the command line version of VirtualBox. So VBOXMANAGE is a huge command that can do all sorts of things with VirtualBox. And so being able to work with VirtualBox without X11 forwarding to do a couple little things, minor tweaks to the guest machines, was really vital. So they've got an entire page of all the commands and what all the commands do. But some of the key ones that I found were really helpful is VBOXMANAGE list VMs. And so that just gives you a list of all the virtual machines that are currently configured. And so to be able to jump between that and the Cuckoo conf files, to be able to copy the exact name or the GUID of the virtual machine into the conf files was really helpful, because then I could make sure that they matched and case sensitive and all that good stuff. VBOXMANAGE start VM, the name of your virtual machine, type headless, will actually start that Windows machine, and it'll start it inside headless, but through an SSH session, and it'll be running on that server, and then you can interact with it, or you can take a snapshot of it. So if you wanted to boot it up, take a snapshot of it. The other thing that's really cool is once you get your virtual machine perfect, just like you like it, you can use VBOXMANAGE to clone that virtual machine and rename it into several virtual machines. That way you can have 4 or 5 different machines to be able to run analysis on without having to set each one up separately. So, if you don't want to set up your own, you don't want to have to do your own, there are several places that you can run your own sandbox analysis on and get the results like you had set up your very own. But the trick is, anything you send to these sandboxes are going to be public, and everybody else that goes to these websites can see exactly what you've run before. So if there's anything private or anything in there that you don't want out there, like you got some tax information and you don't know if it's like legitimate, you might not want to send it to those people, because if it is legitimate tax information like your W-2, now it's just out there on the internet. So I'm going to go through a couple of these and show you how Cuckoo works, what it looks like, and we're going to submit an analysis and see what it does. Dan, you don't have anything weird running on JaxLUG.net, do you? There's no evil JavaScript running in the background?
Not that I know of.
We're going to check that
I would
out.
certainly like to know if there is.
You would like to know if there is.
Yeah.
All right, good. So I'll go over some of the other things I talked about real quick. We'll submit an analysis, see how it comes back. So this is some of the documentation. Documentation's really neat here. let me make this just huge so that it shows up on camera. They've got some installation information here, preparing the host, some of the requirements. Like I said, the requirements are long and varied. So 2 different kinds of databases here. It uses both MongoDB and PostgreSQL. Is that how you say that?
Sure.
PostgreSQL. It uses Django, so it's not Nginx, it's Django for the web interface. It uses, you can install PyDeep if you'd like. A bunch of different requirements here, but it's all listed kind of step by step here on their page. So there's the requirements again. And so this is malware.ee. That's malwr.ee. If one of you guys could type that into the chat real quick. So this is a huge Cuckoo instance with 90 terabytes of free disk space, or 23 terabytes of free disk space, 56 cores, and 738.1 gigabytes of RAM. So I thought I'd see Mike Potts just start drooling, but I guess not. So this is what the Cuckoo.
I'm paying attention.
What's that? You're paying attention. So this is run by. I'm pretty sure it's run by one of the developers for Cuckoo. He ran the same website but .com for a long time, and malwr.com, malware.com is currently down, and it says that they'll be back up, but .ee seems to be working just fine. And so if we wanted to submit something like JaxLUG.net, we could type it in right here on the submit a URL button. We could hit submit, and it will give us some options here. So over here, make it huge again. So over here we have, do we want to remote control it through Guacamole, which will give us a user interface to be able to move the cursor, click on things, check things out. I find that really helpful if you're trying to check out something that has an installer. You gotta go next, 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 next. You can actually click through the installer. And then I've also seen malware that the first page when the malware opens is a CAPTCHA, I'm not a robot button. And so the only sandbox that would run it was Cuckoo, because I was able to go in and say, I'm not a robot, and then be able to get to the actual phishing page. This is enable behavioral analysis. So this is, it moves the cursor around for you. Process the memory dump, full memory dump, enforce the timeout, simulated human interaction, and I guess this is injection. I don't have that on mine. And then this is how long is it going to run. So we're going to run a short analysis because I don't think it'll take that long, and then I don't want to wait for it also. And then down here you can select which machine you're going to run it on. So this particular server has many different guest machines available to run the analysis on. So we could check it out on an Ubuntu server, or we could check it out on a Windows server. I'm going to let it load balance on its own. And then over here you can select some specific options that you want about each different package. So if you submit 10 URLs, it'll have all the 10 URLs in here. And you can say, this URL I want to take forever, this URL I want to take slowly. So, or I want to, I want a longer analysis on it. And then we're going to hit Analyze. So this is going to sit here, it's going to keep refreshing over and over and over again until it's submitted the analysis.
I think you have, you said HXXP.
Yes, it obfuscates the URL for you here, so that if you copy and paste it, it won't accidentally go to your malicious site that you submitted. So that's...
You put in HTTP in the original page.
They will change it.
And forever it basically references HXX.
Nice.
So that's like to prevent you from doing something dumb,
Like clicking on it.
Like clicking on it or accidentally going to it. So I ran one earlier, just this suspicious website that I ran on malware.ee, so you could actually scroll through the recent analysis, and you can go find this one if you wanted to. But this was raymond.cc/blog/analyze suspicious executable files, etc., etc. It got a 5.4 out of 10, which they will warn you that this is an alpha feature and that the scoring system is not 100%. I've gotten like 23 out of 10 before, which kind of tells you that it is in beta or alpha. And then it'll tell you it was a URL, when did it run, and what did it do. So it had some HTTP requests, which is not a big deal as long as you recognize where it's going. But when you start going to places like x.ss2.us/x.sir, or some of these other odd ones, when you get down in here, if it's all going to the same URL that you submitted, it's not a huge deal. But when it starts to go to other strange places, that might be a piece of the puzzle that might indicate that maybe this isn't so great. Tech426.com, you might want to check out some of these things to find out exactly what they do and what they mean. It allocates read-write memory, usually to unpack itself. So I see this on almost every analysis. I think this is just from Internet Explorer opening. Let's see, it creates executable files on the system. So this is JavaScript that it is installing inside of the Windows temporary files. But if you ran an executable on here and it started replacing temporary files where Windows system files might be, that might be a big deal. But as long as it's inside of temporary files and they're JavaScript, that might not be as big of a deal because a lot of websites will do that. But again, just an indication of what the kinds of things it might be doing. It changes read-write memory to read-execute memory, which I see that a lot. Potentially malicious URLs are found in memory, so I see this quite often also. Uses Windows utilities for basic functionality, so that is just Internet Explorer starting again. But now we get to the big red stuff. So this deep red stuff down here at the bottom is like the scary stuff. So it did some DNS requests for things that were not, it went to some websites that no DNS was requested for. So this might be an indication of some malware command and control. Usually will not use DNS, they'll go straight to an IP address. It shot a snort alert, which is snort and Suricata are open source SIEM and what's snort? An IPS, so it's an intrusion prevention system. And so it will actually has community rules that says that if it sees this, then it will fire this kind of alert. So snort and Suricata are something that you can install from the community directory full of known bad stuff that might be out there. And so if you see one of these alerts fire, it's somebody has come together and says, hey, I've seen this bad thing before, and they put it into the Cuckoo community rules. And you can update that periodically. But this is just saying that it found a .cc TLD, which is the top level domain. So it's not a .com, a .net, a .org, one that it's used to seeing. It's .cc, which can sometimes be strange and be an indication that you're not doing something, that something's bad. It creates an alternative data stream, suggested sites, favicon, probably not a big deal. And then it resumed a process thread, which I also see on almost every analysis, so that's not a big red flag to me. Right below that, you can get screenshots. And so you can actually see what the website looked like. This is malware.ee's background. And you can see Internet Explorer opens. And then it says, well, there's some add-ons being ready to use. I think Internet Explorer does that every time anyways. And then it starts loading the web page. And then this is what the web page actually looks like. So the web page by itself doesn't look that evil. But this is what the website would look like. What I see 9 times out of 10 when I'm analyzing malware is I see Office 365 with some Office 365 logos and a login screen. And what you'll notice is it is not at Microsoft.com up in the URL. And so that right then tells me this is not a legitimate login site, and 9 times out of 10 it'll be a phishing page that's just waiting for you to type in your username and password. Below that we have some of the IP addresses that it went to. And then over here on the right, we have all the different tabs that will tell you what it did and give you some other options. So let's go take a look at, so JaxLUG.net, this says completed, but until it says reported, we can't look at the report yet, so we'll go back to this one. Network analysis is where I find a lot of my good stuff. You can see full PCAP of everything that was sent to the server and every reply from the server. So what I like to do in here is I will go type in usernames and passwords into phishing sites using the guacamole, and then I will see what does the post request look like and where is it sending the username and password on the phishing website, so that I can blacklist both where the username and password went as well as the page that has the pretty login screen and all the icons and everything to make it look like it's Microsoft. Usually those will be two different websites. And so I'll pull that, see where it's posting to, and then blacklist both. But you can see in here the full request and response from this particular GET request, and you can see everything that the computer's doing. Sometimes there's some really interesting stuff inside here. Kind of set up similar to Wireshark inside of here. You can look at the plain text and then the hex. This is just a picture that it responded with, so you can't read it in plain text like this. But really detailed stuff in here. You can see all the drop files, so all the JavaScript that it drops on the machine inside of the pull this out a little bit so it makes more sense. All the JavaScript and all the files that it dropped on the machine. So this is crypt URL cache, so something about the, I think that's the SSL keys that are on here. You can download some of those files. So when it starts doing weird things to your computer, you can find out which file was running. You can download it, or you can submit it again back into Cuckoo and have it run just that piece to see what that particular thing does. So here's the HTML of the page that we visited. Here's a picture that it downloaded as part of the page contents and source. So all sorts of stuff. So you can see very granularly it picked up, just going to one website, picked up 132 things that downloaded onto the, or 103 things that downloaded onto the local machine. Static analysis is also really interesting for files that you upload into Cuckoo. So you can get strings. So if we go, let's go a little bit outside of the demo. We'll go pick something that somebody else has submitted. Oh, this one finally reported.
4.2.
4.2, uh-oh. So this is some PDF that somebody submitted. I have no idea what it is. Probably, yeah, it doesn't look great. But if you go into the static analysis, you can pull out strings out of the actual content of the document, or the executable, or the .cmd file, or the bat file, or whatever you've got. It'll check it against different antiviruses, kind of like VirusTotal does, and tell you if it's clean or not, or whether it detects that particular thing as malicious. And then when you're looking at an actual file, it'll give you all the hashes so that you can go check VirusTotal against those things. And so sometimes VirusTotal has already checked something and has a little bit more information about what it is. So now that this says reported, let's go see what JaxLUG has to say.
While you're on your way there, someone in IRC said, so could I run a Bitcoin miner for like 3 minutes?
You probably could. Yeah. And
I wonder what the execution
on this
time is.
particular website, you could run, I don't know, 50 at a time.
Obviously, it's up to the execution limit of the analysis.
Maybe.
That's probably a setting that.
Yeah, and so we have to lock our Cuckoo instance down by IP ranges. So there's no login, there's no user authentication type stuff. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to lock that down to only certain people are going to be able to visit the page, because once you're in, everybody can just submit things into it. So that's why this kind of being out on the internet is a little bit surprising. But anyways, we got a 4.2 out of 10. So let's see what kind of things we're doing. We're doing some HTTP requests. So we're looking up JaxLUG.net, we're looking up some,
And by the way,
materials.
this is MediaWiki.
yeah,
So, well, I'm just
yeah,
telling
so
them.
it
So,
runs
yeah.
on MediaWiki, so we're gonna pull some resources down from MediaWiki. That's the platform it's being
Well,
running on.
no, it should all be hosted on our site. It's just that
Yeah.
this is a pretty good show of a MediaWiki site.
Yes, yeah. And so notice how here, as opposed to the last website we looked at, everything inside of the HTTP requests are all coming from the same site. Now I'm not going to say it's bad or evil if something is looking up from something somewhere else, but if you're pulling a lot of resources from a lot of weird websites, that might be an indication that something weird's going on there.
Or there's ads on the page.
Well, it's
Or there's
actually-
ads, sometimes there's ads, sometimes
JavaScript,
there's JavaScript, sometimes there's trackers like Facebook tracking, Google
Google Ads.
Analytics,
Yeah,
things like
sure.
that. You'll see all that stuff in there, but the trick is to look for things that are not supposed to be running on there.
Right.
Like there was one website that we analyzed in a class I was in 2 weeks ago that instead of pulling the Google Tag Manager, it pulled the Google Tag Manager, TEG, which was a malicious piece of JavaScript running on some spoofed website, and it was actually MageCart, which MageCart is JavaScript that will steal information out of logins and credit cards that are being typed into websites. So if you have MageCart running on your website, that is, malicious, obviously. So, so it does the same read, write, execute memory. I usually see that anyways. Creates executables on the file, so it has a couple of JavaScripts loading here. Again, if they're loading into temporary internet files, that's usually pretty normal. Changes, read, write, execute memory, usually in there. This one, instead of having a bunch, only has 19 events. So it looks like, what's that, some searches?
I don't know.
Or maybe the other thing that I will find, when you set up your own Cuckoo instance, be mindful of this, is that when you find URLs inside of memory, that can be history, that can be in the cache, that can be in favorite suggested websites. There's a lot of places that you can put the URLs inside of the memory that might have nothing to do with the website or the malicious software that you're running inside of it. So sometimes you get some false positives, but usually I'll be able to go through here and I'll be able to find, I guess you're probably using Let's Encrypt on JaxLUG.net, so Let's Encrypt is in here. But sometimes if I go to a phishing page, I submit my credentials, and then it goes to another website, I'll find that malicious URL in this section right here. And it communicates for a host with no DNS, so this might be something related to JaxLUG or might be something else. Might be Mike Potts running a Bitcoin miner on there, who knows. Alternate data stream, so this was the same as the one we saw last time, so this might be a problem in their baseline for this website that I don't actually run myself. And the same thing that it has a remote thread. And then we go here, we have the same background and the same JaxLUG that we're all used to seeing. So we get to see the website, hey, it looks like the website we're used to, and now we've confirmed, hey, this isn't so bad. So this was the other one that we were looking at. And then I just wanted to show, this is VBOXMANAGE. I guess I should have had this earlier in the tab order, but this guy is that beast mode documentation for VBOXMANAGE that you can do almost everything that you can do with VirtualBox, but through a command line interface. So there's a lot of documentation available on VBOXMANAGE. So if you're having a difficulty doing something inside of VirtualBox, the answer is probably in here somewhere. So that's pretty much my presentation. Does anybody have any websites that they want me to submit into?
Or if you've already submitted your own as you're following along, feel free to link to it in the chat, and we'll pull it up and look at it together.
Yeah, nothing else is recorded since ours. I'm gonna scroll through here and find some cool stuff.
There's a
Oh, that
WannaCry
looks malicious.
entry there.
What's that?
There's a WannaCry two down.
2 down? Yeah, that's full malicious.
So you click on it, you download it?
Yep, totally. Although, fun fact, if you come up here and you download the report, if you export analysis, I think it's this one right here, export analysis, it will download everything, including the payload that you submitted.
Huh.
So I did that one time, and the antivirus on the computer, my work computer, freaked out
Mm-hmm.
because I
Good.
had submitted it.
Yeah, it's
Right? Makes sense.
Valid test.
It
Yeah,
works.
but it's like inside of a zip, inside of a zip, inside of a zip, and it took a little while, but it freaked out and quarantined the whole
I
thing.
wonder, like, a lot of these services will like send you a zip with the password of, you know, malicious or something like that.
Yeah.
And I like how I've seen a malware, like antivirus software, will attempt to use a certain common set of passwords
Yeah.
on the zips because they're trying to catch people who are trying to get around their
Yeah.
own little blocking.
Yeah. So it didn't find it in Yara antivirus didn't find it on this one. Start wanna decryptor.exe. Yara didn't match here.
Well, first of all, do you see that
Go
third
back.
one there, number 3?
Yeah, 3.
It's deleting all those shadow copies,
Yep.
which is classic WannaCry
That
action.
sucks. So these are some of the extracted artifacts, some of the extracted files. Static analysis on this should be fun.
Our IRC is getting hacked.
You know. So it's got, this is the static analysis, which is a little bit over my head, but it's probably meaningful to somebody who really needs to analyze some malware. And then we've got some strings. So strings is really nice to be able to pull out some data here.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
some of these are going to be, you know, really helpful to start telling what kind of things does it do. Copyright Mark Adler, copyright, so you might be able to look these up to see what components they're trying to use in here. Is it just me or does that say serialized? Yes. Antivirus. So antivirus is all popping that it's no good.
Yay.
Good.
Irma is showing you some. That's telling right there. That tells me something right there.
CLI scan, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that's
fun.
good that there's a
No,
CLI
that-
scanner. It's
it's
just
fun.
that it's
Well, that's failing. The
Yeah.
Linux CLI scanner for McAfee.
Yeah, but see Claim AV right up there on the top.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Oh, so they ran this particular executable in a Linux VM, which is why. Oh no, never mind. There's Windows at the
No,
bottom.
it's against a bunch of different ones. There's Windows there.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know if I can see what they ran it against. Normally that would be something you knew if you ran it.
I don't know anything.
Appears the environment of your virtual machine is partially unknown. For 95% of the time the analysis works perfectly fine. By doing a special fully automated analysis you can automatically obtain the environmental specific. What is it? Yeah, it was a PE executable for Windows, so I'm assuming they ran this thing in a Windows machine. All the bad in here, lots and lots of bad. Oh, it ran all. Sometimes running malware is really difficult to get it to work. I've had to like fix people's malware in order, or fix people's phishing page in order to be able to get it to work, to be able to like get all the data out of it.
Do you have issues sometimes with it being in a lockdown environment?
No. No, I've had, I think, one in the past 8 or 9 months that I've been doing this. I've had one that had enough intelligence, because I do mostly phishing type stuff, but I had one that had enough analysis to know that it was being run in a sandbox,
Yeah.
and I had to run it in a more, you know, like a more realistic sandbox. The other cool thing, if you get to an advanced level in Cuckoo, you can set up Cuckoo to run analysis on a physical machine. And so it's running an actual physical device, and it will send it to it, have it run it, and then it'll wipe it and rebuild it every time you run an analysis. And so there's an entire page, not inside of preparing the host, but inside of preparing the guest physical machine. And so there's explanations on how to do this. And so you can run it on a physical machine that's remote, and you can send an analysis to that. It'll run it on a physical machine, which is really well, it does really well against malware that is trying to avoid sandboxes. So what was it that it wasn't WannaCry. Yeah, it was WannaCry that resolved to the domain name, and they synced the domain name, and all the WannaCry stopped working.
Yep.
Well, what that DNS check was doing was it was checking for sandboxes, because typically sandboxes will just give the malware everything that it wants, right? And so it's like, hey, I need this website. You're like, sure, here's the website. And it's like, no, you tricked me. I'm in a sandbox. I'm not going to run. And so people that were analyzing the malware were having difficulty getting it to run in sandboxes until they started denying that piece. And the first guy that figured out that that is what it was looking for, he registered the domain, and then every version of WannaCry that was running at the time was checking that domain and saying, oh yeah, it's there, I'm in a sandbox, and shutting itself down. So
That's pretty cool.
So we were on this one. So yeah, it ran all the way and changed the background and did all the things. So that's pretty neat. So, but in a I think most use cases you would send something to them, you'd wait for the analysis to come back, you check it out, and then, you know, if it's safe, then you'd be able to go visit it or do something. Another two great places to go for something like this would be hybrid analysis.com. Hybridanalysis.com has this interface right here, and you can submit things to them also. So they will sandbox it for you and give you the results. And then VirusTotal isn't technically a sandbox, but it will run against all the different virus scanners, and it will come back with some usable results to tell you if something is bad or not. But keep in mind, malware.ee, VirusTotal, and Hybrid Analysis are all, if you submit something to them, everybody else is going to be able to see what was submitted and probably even download that or go to that website. And if it's a private thing, then it's just out there on the internet now. Have we gotten any requests for running things in Cuckoo yet?
No. But is there a way of deleting that from there? Is there, like, you know, it's just upload only?
Once it's there, it's there. Hybrid Analysis will,
I have one for you.
Yeah?
What about Google?
So just run a Google?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to submit.
Or YouTube.
Just plain google.com. It usually rates at about a 3 for me. We're going to run a shorter analysis so that we can get the answer back quickly. And we are going to do all these normal simulated human interaction things and run the analysis. So this will take probably 60 is 1 minute, 60 seconds. So it'll get to the website, go sit there for 60 seconds, and then give us the answer. So we'll see what Google does. We might even be able to search through there. Search through their existing stuff. So term, google.com, resolves host. So this analysis right here, 1471088, went to google.com, so we'll go take a look at that. Oh, it's too old. So they probably clear out some of their old
over time, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So we'll have to wait for our new one to pop up. So we also found that after we get to about 300 or 400 analysis, the database starts getting a little bit full. So what we'll do is we will save any ones that were really cool or that we might still need to work with. We'll save those, and then we'll run Cuckoo Clean, which cleans out the database, and you start back at analysis number 1. And so we do that. I've had to do that once since I've been at Availity, just to wipe things out and start over again. Oh, somebody said JaxLUG.github.io. We submitted that.
I didn't do it.
So does some HTTP requests, reads, write, executes memory, read, write, memory protection, potentially malicious URLs, JaxLUG.net, so evil, GitHub.com, Digisert, Schema.org, search.yahoo.c, so that's probably .com, but they got cut off.
So what's causing it to be cut off like that?
I don't know. But, so this is in the memory dump, so we can go to the memory dump page. Really? I've never seen an MISP page before. Huh. There's an IOC popped for in MISP. Because I've done a separate speech on setting up MISP before. It's a threat intelligence platform that you can ingest threat intelligence, and then I guess it's checking against the MISP platform to see, hey, is there any threat intelligence in there that we need to know that popped inside of our analysis. So if you go to the memory dump, you can download the full memory dump, or I think inside the process dump, you can see, so here's what Internet Explorer dropped, here's what Internet Explorer dropped, and you can see the URLs that are inside of there. And is it cut off in here too? No, not this one.
We had a suggestion of iCar.
Yeah.
Does anybody know where to get an iCar file? I don't have one here.
iCar has this head.
Oh, he says he's actually running it, so it might pop up on ours.
So it might pop up in a second.
Yeah.
So this one's completed, we just gotta wait for it to report. There's also a command that you can run. Every once in a while we'll have an analysis get stuck inside of completed and it won't push through to reported. So there's one command that you can run inside of the Cuckoo module that will force it to go from completed into reported. I found that on their forums, so that's something that I've saved on our wiki at work that I'll have to run, you know, once or twice a month.
Are you on the IRC on your computer?
I'm not. This page auto refreshes too, so as soon as it completes, it'll pop up every 2 seconds. It refreshes. It'll tell you when it is finished. Did everybody get the pizza that we sent out to their houses?
Hey, we didn't get any here.
If you didn't get it, did you click the link? Obviously, you gotta click that link.
How long does it usually take to complete?
Well, it depends on how long you select when you submit. So if you go into the submit page, we type in some gobbledygook just to get to the next page. Google.com. So it will usually take about 2 or 3 minutes, or well, maybe a minute or two, to go from completed to reported because it's scanning through all the memory dumps and everything. But also, the timeout, you can go 60 seconds, 120 seconds, 300 seconds, or you can type in a custom value over here on the right. And what I like to do 30 seconds is I go to unsubscribe links. So people say, hey, you know, I got fish, and it's like, you know, some notification or something that they just like, it's just spam, is I will click on the unsubscribe link, I'll send it to Cuckoo, I'll set it for 30 seconds. It'll go to the link, it'll unsubscribe them, and then it'll close out the analysis and it'll just move on with my life. So 30 seconds is sometimes really nice just to get something done and move on to the next analysis.
That's interesting.
But so it mostly depends on how long you set the timeout. And then
There's your run your Bitcoin miner.
Yep.
For how
500,
300,
300,
yeah, however long
3,000
it was,
seconds, the longest possible.
Wonder what the longest timeout is. Could you do like 9999999?
I wonder if it's in the configuration.
999.
Well,
Yeah.
it's probably in the configuration, but like
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering what
There's
they have. it set
probably
up
a
for.
maximum timeout in the available in the configuration, I would guess.
Right.
Host, Cuckoo working directory.
Interesting. There's only like this is not pretty well used because like there's only one being used right now.
Yeah.
One process occurring right now. 2 completed, I guess recently.
Yep, so those completed are the ones that we're waiting to kick into reported phase. And then you can see that they've got enough machines available that they don't have any pending. Because pending means that it's waiting on a virtual machine to free up and be able to run the next analysis.
Did this run by the Cuckoo Sandbox people?
The name malware is the same website that the guy
Yeah.
set up. But I don't know if the .ee version is actually from the guy that wrote Cuckoo. So I looked up some threat intelligence earlier. I checked it out. I made sure that I wasn't sending people to some really evil website, and I can't link malware.ee back to I think the Swedish guy that runs malware.com. I can't get them quite connected together yet. All right, so our google.com reported, but it sounds like this eCar file is going to be downloading. That'll be more interesting. So, oh, it didn't even get there. That's weird.
You put HTTP and didn't auto forward
Oh,
because the next forward by default like asks you, "Hey,
Yeah.
you're going to a secure site. Congratulations."
yeah, good job. So, it did almost nothing.
So
Too funny.
the malware.ee's TLS cert
Yeah.
is shared by the computer emergency response team group in wherever this is,
Finland?
wherever EE is.
Oh,
I don't know.
I remember looking this up one time because I really wanted to figure out who ran the site and I couldn't quite nail it down. Because they had tested something that had
Estonia.
popped in my environment. What?
Estonia.
Estonia. Yeah.
The TLS cert. If you click up and click the lock up there,
Yep.
you'll see the cert is shared by and hit that. Yeah. Get that. Yeah. It's still going. And then view certificate. Yeah, it's a lot of clicks in there. It's cuckoo.cert.ee.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
So cert.ee is their
is
cert.
their domain. Also, yes, so that's another place that you can go to run analysis. I suppose they're probably just,
It's the same thing.
yeah, same thing.
And there's all the alternates as well.
So all of these will get you there.
Well, all those are valid for this cert.
Right.
Okay.
Who knows what this certs are actually
Yeah, the
installed.
cert is valid for those URLs.
So I guess it's run by some relatively official people. If it's linked to, if they have a subdomain on their cert site,
Yeah.
then it's really a government endorsed.
Estonia government.
Estonia, yeah.
So this page, this recent page, does not refresh automatically, so you actually have to refresh it.
He said that one of the guys on IRC said that his EI car is still running and it's processing for about 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Go back to the dashboard and see. Said it's on the processing page, so it hasn't completed yet.
No, but so just a minute ago I saw one running, 2 completed.
Okay.
So now I think it did.
Move
He just
from
said never
running
mind
to
completed.
Oh, okay. Let's
wanna
go
follow
take a
on
look at it.
to the
No,
lab.
it's completed. It has to go to reported before
Oh,
we
okay.
can read it.
Can we see the status of completed for that, or is that just something he can see?
The way to get to that page is actually to just do a little bit of URL hacking. So if we go into one of our existing analysis, so submit post and it'll tell you that it's done. We can just change this URL
Yeah.
and guess what his is. Nope, doesn't like that. What were we at,
28.
1920?
Yeah.
His is 222.
222. So we just find his, and then we can break into his and wait for his eCar to finish downloading.
There you go.
I've had to do that a couple times because
Yes.
I clicked off of this page and I'm like, how do I get back to watch the constantly refreshing page to wait for it to load? And I just figured out that I just had to figure out what the task ID number was.
And it's
Type in
just
the task
sequential,
ID.
so.
Yeah, it's just sequential, so I just guessed until I found the one that I needed.
I typed in IRC. Can you share the link to the link you submitted? And then he goes, it's .22 or it's 22. I'm like, how did he? He had already posted the link
Yeah.
several minutes ago. Good job, Potts.
So, yep, just auto refresh it. Yeah,
This is really cool. I've
Yeah.
never seen this this particular package before.
Yeah, I
Might have to
really
look at it.
thoroughly
Package is such an understatement.
Yeah, this collection of packages.
This
Yeah, it's a beast to set up.
I was
Though,
gonna say
so.
Yeah.
Time
Well,
sink.
I mean, it wasn't
It
actually
is.
that hard to set up the original package,
Yeah.
but setting up the VM seems to be a bit more than like their
You got to be able to
documents
get
wants
in.
give
You
up.
got to be able to get in and get to it, and be able to do things with it.
Right.
So that's the other trick, and then be able to run it. And that's the other trick is being able to run virtual inside of virtual. Gave me a little bit of difficulty.
Yeah.
But I started working on this last Wednesday when we were like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it, right? And then I had one server that I fried NetPlan in, and I should have watched Gene Crunk's talk about NetPlan, because I fried the NetPlan conf and couldn't fix it.
Oh,
And so I just blew the whole server away and started over again, because I needed one on VirtualBox to be able to SSH into it, and I needed one on NAT so that I could get out to the internet. So I needed 2 devices. I couldn't figure out how to do that on NetPlan. And then, so that was the first screw up. And then the second one, I got all the way in and I got all the virtual machines set up. I got all the way into the virtual machine, and it was so slow that I couldn't start the virtual machine.
oh man.
Yeah, nested virtual machines are hard.
Nested virtual machines, yeah, I couldn't.
It looks like you can if a lot more work. It looks like, but you can actually have it manage an external like KVM server kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, so you can have it set up so that they're parallel, so that it runs another thing, or you can set up inside of EXSI or vSphere, but
Very suspicious.
more work. Very suspicious. So it does an HTTP request because it downloaded the file. Reads, writes, allocutes memory. Snort.
Couldn't ping the
Destination. Yeah, couldn't ping something. Does some DNS, alternate data stream. So this is, because we keep seeing this, it's probably a false positive. And it's something that they could work on their conf file to whitelist. If you really get it perfect, it just shows up perfectly. There's also a command when you set up your Cuckoo. The first time you run a new virtual machine, you should run Cuckoo submit dash baseline. And that will run the machine, open it up, and then everything that ran on that first run will be whitelisted. So they might need to take a new baseline on this machine because something might have changed, or they changed something and didn't baseline it. But some antivirus popped on it.
Which ones?
But you see right here, this is the problem with their analysis, is that it pulled up and it said, do you want to open it or save it? It never actually downloaded and ran this file. So what we might need to do is we might need to go into dropped files and see if we can pull that text file and resubmit it. So here's our ecar.com/text where it was sitting in the temporary internet files, and then we could resubmit this.
Oh, cool.
It does have a type there, by the way.
It
It's a type ecar test file.
Yeah.
So I think it
It already knows what it is.
Yeah. That one's super obvious at least.
Yep, so we'll do short on this one so it doesn't take forever. In fact, it's a text file, so we'll probably just go 30 seconds. And...
You probably disable the human interaction.
Because of why?
Yeah.
Not this one.
No, yeah.
This one. By the way, if you use Guacamole, which it doesn't seem to work on this server online because it probably requires a lot more bandwidth, if you use Guacamole, don't forget to turn off human interaction because it'll be moving your cursor around for you.
And you can't take over.
So it should, if I had written the thing, if you turn on one, it would automatically turn off the other, but that's the way it works. And so we will go into select, analyze. So hopefully that will run. I've had some difficulty with pulling it out of the temp files before, but we'll see what it does. So we can go in here, and it also likes to open tabs. That's another thing that Cuckoo does. It opens tabs on pretty much every time you click. So they said that the website at least was malicious. Extracted artifacts. Let's see if there's anything else from the website, because this is technically just the website that it came from, not the file that it was trying to download. It's kind of neat. You can see all the processes that it opened and all the processes that get spawned. Talking was moved to here. So is this is the ecar test string, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another way to get the files right out of the network capture. URLs. You can download the actual memory dumps here if you'd like. I will say compare analysis. Basically, you can pick 2 analysis if you run something twice. You can pick the 2 and it'll just highlight all the differences. Export pulls out a zip file with all of this data and the original thing that you submitted. If I remember correctly, I think reboot analysis runs it again, but after the computer's rebooted. So maybe it,
Oh, like if it
Restarts
drops an auto run,
yeah.
and then when you reboot the computer, it comes back up, and now all of a sudden you're caught.
I'm not sure how it's doing that, if it's just reverting to the snapshot though.
No,
How does it
that
work?
makes sense. It's probably doing a reboot of the
Oh,
VM.
it's probably running it,
And then-
rebooting it, and
and then seeing
then
what
showing you
happens
the results of what it
afterwards.
does afterwards. So, and then options is pretty much just delete. I have an option to delete, so I guess you could delete it right out of there. I wouldn't trust this, but yeah, this is, you could
And who knows
delete.
who scrapes this for
Yeah,
their own fun, download all the files
right.
that are getting uploaded.
I wouldn't trust this with your tax information, but you know. So this is our new, so this is already completed, and we're just waiting for it to report. This is the one that we pulled out of the first analysis to
Boom.
pivot and run again. Not boom.
Oh.
It's gotta go to reported, it's weird. Completed is not complete.
Yeah, you're right.
Completed means the VM has opened back up and the next process can now take over that VM and run another one.
Right.
Right in mind.
And I saw when I was doing the setup, playing around with it today a
Mhm.
bit. You can do KVM, you can do VirtualBox, you can do VMware.
VMware.
There's a bunch of different ways of doing the
ESXi. Yep.
virtualization.
And then Checkpoint has made an AWS version.
Oh, okay.
That spools up EC2s.
That's
the
really
other
cool.
the other cool way to do it.
Yeah.
Is it basically has a hook back into your Cuckoo, has the AWS key to be able to spool up new EC2s.
Is that part of the community build, or is that?
It is not part of the community build. They've got their own repo that they've forked.
Okay. So
The Checkpoint
is theirs open, or is it something you have to pay for?
Yeah, it's open source.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So-
Checkpoint's forked that?
Yep. Checkpoint, Cuckoo, AWS. And here's their blog about it, and then here is their GitHub on it. So it's got, this is the complete thing, but then they've got their step-by-step directions on how to set it up.
Okay.
I think they last committed to it like a year ago, so it might be a little bit older.
I've noticed that Cuckoo is not updated a lot.
Super well maintained, yeah, not really.
It's a lot of moving parts.
Yes, it is.
I mean,
It could just be that they're, it's mostly function perfect, and they just have to do security updates once in a while.
and well, I mean, probably even less security updates, more like if someone can break out of their jail, or if the
Right.
new version of Windows.
But then
Really,
really,
that's-
that's
that's
more
the
on
VM.
VirtualBox,
Yeah, that's the VM technology.
Although they are using VirtualBox 5.4,
5.2
5.2.
on the one I was looking at.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
But that wasn't
5.2 is a
available,
little
so I
bit
just
updated.
installed the newest one that was there.
yeah.
So
So all right, let's see if our second
Nope,
eCard
recorded.
finished. Nope, that's not the right one. This one still hasn't completed.
I'm just gonna be quiet. I almost went, hey, look, it's done. Don't talk.
Yeah, this is the first one that already took forever. We probably just, like, the Estonian government probably didn't know that everybody could get to this, and now all of a sudden they've got all these hits from America, because,
New tab that, and I'll give you yeah,
I'll
I'll give you a new code to do as well.
Oh, you gonna do the one?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the guys in IRC.
Well, no, change the URL.
For the guys on YouTube, one of the guys on IRC submitted
Ending
an
in
actual
27.
virus or actual malware to check.
That one.
Zesto! Yeah, and it'll do, let's see what it'll do. It will do.
Got this off this page. I almost clicked it, I'll be honest. Almost clicked it.
Don't share. Oh, Cuckoo Sandbox, you have to specify, you just find out fun facts about Cuckoo.
Right.
Bird
I
facts.
was having that problem too. I think maybe the cuckoo is Virginia's national or state bird or something too.
Did they discuss why they called it cuckoo?
Oh, maybe. So
It
June
doesn't have a
19th,
picture of a
2019
bird.
was the most recent version, so that's not too bad.
That's Yeah, that's not too bad.
For a stable, yeah.
Yeah. The material that I've been seeing for like the Docker builds and stuff, that stuff is it's been barely touched in like years.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could just be like it's not fully functional either. It really needs some love. I ended up having to build a VM and use the
See, like
the
this
more
guy right
modern
here
stuff.
is, I think this is the guy that's running malware.ee, but I haven't been able to attribute it to him, so. I was trying to look, I thought I saw a list of supported file types earlier. So I was gonna go look that up, but I know it does like PHP, JavaScript.
Hey,
all
there it
sorts of
goes.
stuff. Hey, super suspicious! So yeah, we got it to work. eCar test file. 11 malicious things, 64 antivirus
okay.
engines on VirusTotal, so it's pulling it out of VirusTotal too.
See if see which ones actually
I say,
flagged
yeah.
it and which ones didn't.
Malwarebytes.
Well,
Yeah, Malwarebytes discussed that. I actually remember reading that a while ago, that Malwarebytes said they don't alert for it.
it's weird that they don't.
That was back when Malwarebytes was not malware, or not antivirus.
Right.
That was their intention. We're not antivirus, so we're not going to alert for the antivirus.
Well, apparently
test
they're
file.
still not antivirus.
Apparently. Not,
So
their
yeah.
salespeople say otherwise.
Yeah.
Everything fires.
Cool.
So still
Oh, go back one. The eCar test, not virus.
I like that. That's funny.
That was that's called the
That's
product
a fast.
department said, please change it because we're getting calls.
Yeah, so
I got
fun,
the eCar
fun fact,
virus.
a recent malware was putting the eCar test string in the front of their malicious code, and then the malicious code afterwards. And so
Oh, no.
what happens is it alerts on everything, every time it shows up, except the analyst goes, oh, it's just an eCar test file, next, right?
Oh.
Dismiss alert,
That's brilliant.
yeah, but in actuality it's malicious code that's now running on the back end or whatever.
Right. That's cute.
That's
I thought I'm better for some of these people.
right. Like thanks. Yeah, good job, everyone.
Yeah, so this is the Checkpoint one that does the AWS, and they worked on this about a year ago too.
Yeah. Oh, and they're back a major revision, I think. Anyway.
Or is it running on 2.6? 2.06? I don't know. I don't even
Well,
know.
I mean everything's from their first commit, pretty much. So, 3 months ago. That's pretty recent.
Yeah.
Well, this one is. Everything
Yeah.
else is from their first commit. I guess
So they've at
this
least
is just-
maintained it somewhat recently.
Yeah.
And they brought in, they actually merged the requests, looks like, to update some NPM stuff, so they're somewhat maintaining it.
Yeah. They closed a bunch of issues too. 12 closed issues, 2 running issues.
How's that one that?
One of these guys an idiot.
How's that one that we got from one of our RC friends? Still running?
Still running. Still actively in a VM going on. If you put one of these in and you put in Guacamole, you just get a button right here that says remote control. You click the remote control button and it pulls up an interface. It doesn't work on this website that I've been able to make work, but yeah. And then it's kind of strange, but it's in HTML. It's all inside the web browser.
Probably
And
HTML5 or
you
something.
have, yeah, I think so. And you have
Oh, it
full
recorded.
screen. Full screen.
It's not completed.
Remote control
Why not?
and screenshot, and you have those buttons on the side. You click remote control, you get to move the cursor around. I was on the wrong tab.
Oh. Your peanut gallery is very confused why it said reported, and then you clicked, and then it said completed, and we were like, how'd it go backwards?
How'd it go back?
What's
Sorry.
going
Turns
on
out you're
here?
too fast for us.
Yeah.
Got it.
Wrong tab. I heard you say, yeah, I heard you get excited, so I went back to the right tab.
How did you even know?
Dash of notes
You're in the
and
middle of a sentence. How are you managing to know what we're saying? We can barely keep track of our own sentence, and you're tracking us and what you're saying.
So, but now I have no idea what I was saying, so.
Yep.
Yep.
I had no idea either. Obviously, I wasn't listening.
Squirrel!
Something, not completed. I just posted this link into the YouTube chat as well, so if anyone who's not in the IRC wants to click on it and watch it refresh with us, you're welcome to do so.
It's live and
We're
interactive,
we're
just like we're all
DOS
sitting.
we're
There's
all-
probably more interaction going on right now than when we're all sitting in there and nobody's got their laptops out there just staring at me.
Yeah. We've had a pretty good crowd today. We've had pretty much 12 to 14 people hanging out with us. So
Look,
that's
nice.
fun.
IRC is at 11, which is way more than I've ever seen in there.
Yeah, like IRC is going. This is great.
I think we need to have all virtual now because I think we get more.
Right?
Yeah.
We're all homebodies anyways.
Well, actually,
We could be
I
international.
am looking at when we do start having the physical meetings again. I'm going to see if I can't get
Yeah.
the live.
You know, the
stuff.
problem with that
Right.
is that you're going to have to
Yeah.
drag your whole desktop all the way
Right.
every time.
Well, so one of the
big-
reasons we had a big delay.
We should get in the camera because we're talking like weird people and behind the scenes.
Okay. So one of the reasons we had a big delay on starting is for some reason OBS doesn't like the little puck that I bought to do this, and it worked fine when I tested it like 2 days ago on my desktop. But when I put it on my laptop, just didn't get any sound from it. Just could not get any sound whatsoever. Couldn't figure out what was going on with it, and so I just ended up dragging my desktop out and just like, all right, we get it going. But I'll get it fixed before the next one. But yeah,
I just realized I was cut off the whole time.
yeah, he's standing over here in the mic
We're
spot.
maintaining social distancing.
Yeah. High five.
Trick.
Well, I mean, we got to do the demolition man. You know.
You just sit there and you pull out your hand sanitizer, and you high five, you splat. And that's you did the right
Yeah, there you
amount.
go.
And you hand sanitize everyone around you when you high five.
Also called mace.
So well, I guess we'll wait for this one to finish, and then
Yeah,
unless
is there any
there's any more questions,
I haven't seen anyone.
we might.
The
Finish it
lunch
out.
will be held on IRC immediately
Yeah.
following.
Robert says there's a much less, many less interruptions on virtual presentations.
Ah. So
Definitely
completed.
not true because I think Dan and I are the majority of the interruptions, and we're here for at least this one.
Alright, so very suspicious, 10 out of 10. We
Oh, and
have
Rob says well done, applause too.
memory,
Ah.
malicious URLs, even though this is a PHP file. We have Windows utilities, some DNS going on, Snort,
Still hanging.
still, Suricata, TLS handshake failure, possible malware with DriedX, so that would be something you could search and find out exactly what that is. Alternate data stream, we see that every time, that's a false positive. Injection, we keep seeing that one, and then virus total says it's malicious too, so now we have a couple spots that we could go look up. And then we can see what it does. Oh look, it's running command prompt. Your PHP should never run command prompt.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's always bad.
that's actually kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's kind of funny about the
Glad I didn't click on it.
look at the bottom red one. Go up a little bit. Yeah, that one. I see this the Google Safe Browsing, the Yandex Safe Browsing. What's funny is I've actually seen that mischaracterize sites before. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
the kernel.org mirror site for Gentoo was flagged as malicious.
Yeah.
And so I had to like go through, jump through hoops to actually communicate
Convince
with
them
it.
to, yeah.
I think they also at one point did archive.org because text files. That's what it was because what's his face that runs text files. .org, wherever his whole site got essentially blacklisted for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It's a scary kill switch.
they're much quicker to blacklist things than they are to whitelist them after they've been blacklisted.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
not a good way of you don't get like a report that you can go and submit a report to whitelist and get like a code that you can follow up on and you hit please whitelist me and then
Yep.
you just nothing. You don't get any email confirmation back. It's just like
black hole.
Behavioral analysis, so you have explorer.exe, but then what's it doing? It's using cryptbase, it's using lots of cool stuff in here.
Yeah.
No, my favorite one is static analysis. You see you got a couple of
services, yeah.
Google, so you got a couple in here, and then this one will do warm results. So this one is obviously like, you start to get a little bit more
Well,
information.
what's it dropping? Oh, what's the command prompt? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Might be
You
able
going
to
down, is there another one?
get that out of the memory dump. So explore.exe, 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 and that's it. I have seen some machines do weird things. If you submit it again, it doesn't do that anymore. So I had one, what was it? It ran run, which I would say is malicious if a website runs run, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
however you got there, but I ran it again and run was not in the screenshots.
Probably it's the template. I noticed they have a whole bunch of templates. There might be a couple bad ones in there.
Yeah.
Some broken ones or whatever.
Yeah. So maybe the command prompt is something else. Maybe this PHP is not capable of running command line, which would be scary. But you also, when I go in and create my guess, I just turn everything off.
Yeah.
And like it freaks out. It's like, you can't do that. I'm like, no security. like the security bars in Internet Explorer I drag all the way down,
Right.
and it's like I have to hit yes 3 times before it lets me turn it all off.
Every site's in the intranet zone.
Yeah. So, all right. That's
So-
a cool one too. But obviously, you can tell that there's some indicators here that make it obvious that it's a problem.
Right.
So,
Well,
yep. Cool. Check out Cuckoo. Thank you.
Just clap for 2 minutes, that way everyone else can join us.
all right. All right. Well, that's today's Linux Users Group meeting. I have been recording this as well. I don't know how well the stream has been uploading. This is our first shot at doing this stuff. It came out pretty okay. But I might upload the one that actually was recorded onto the machine so that the quality might be a little bit better for that. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Really enjoyed having a bunch of people watching this with us, and thank you very much to Michael for doing the presentation. And it's a good time. If you guys, we may have to do this for the next month or two. We'll see how all the virus stuff pans out. But when we do start doing physical meetings again, I may continue to do this, provided we can get everything rolled out. And that way, the people that don't live in Jacksonville can kind of hang out with us as well, because we have, this is a fairly old club, and there's been a bunch of people that have moved away and may want to also participate.
Yep.
So.
And big thank you to you for putting it all together. I know this is
Absolutely.
you had to acquire some hardware and lend your house and
Learn some things, set things up. We appreciate it.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm here to make the community work. So do what I can. Thank you very much, and it's nice having you all around.
See you next month.
Yep, and if you guys want to hang out on IRC, we're on Freenode, and it's JaxLUG is our channel. So go register yourself a Freenode.
Yes, you do have to be
Name?
registered because
Yes.
of spam. That's yeah, good that you mentioned that. You do have to nick serve or identify and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is not hard. Just the password can be simple. It doesn't have to be anything complicated,
Yeah.
but you do have to identify yourself.
If you have any questions on how to set that up, we do have a site on the wiki. If you go to jaxlug.net or .org and you just search for IRC, there's only one page in there, and it tells you how to register, where to go, how to set up a client, all that kind of stuff. So hope to see you guys there for the Lush. I mean, that's Linux User Social Hour, and we'll have a good time.
Now,
Thanks for coming out and checking us out.
And now, it has to go to the off button.
Goodbye.
Cease.